Before you are legally allowed to operate a semi-truck or before anyone will bother to give you a loan, you need to get trucking insurance. The primary reason you need the insurance is because it's all public and everyone can see all of the information here. So what we're looking at right here is we're on a website called safer.fmcsa.dot.gov. And basically all the information about every trucking company is public on this site, including insurance information. This is my company up here, but if I just go to like one of these companies, so I can just enter in the MC number of, let's say, a random company that we are working with. Okay, in this case, Miracle Freight Corp. So they're actually authorized to haul, right? We're hired. You can see kind of like different products that they haul, general freight, inspections and whatnot. So like what I'm noticing here is that there's a decent amount of inspections, and that would mean more likely that they're a real company. Now, if I want to see their insurance, I can go to their insurance and licensing. I could go here and have more information about their insurance. You can see the auto liability that they have on file, so it could be required. It's a 5 million, and this allows them to operate essentially. But other companies will use things like we use this thing called RMIS, where if you give us your motor carrier number or DOT number, we can basically verify all the insurance policies that you have online. You need it because people need you to have it, and it's easy to check, and you're going to need it. So we want to know what insurance policies we need at an absolute minimum in order to operate our trucking company and to have an active MC authority so we can kind of pass the first test. Really, the two most important coverages are general liability and auto liability. With general liability, you're going to want $1 million worth of coverage, and I think with auto liability as well, you're going to want $1 million worth of coverage. Now, $750 is all that's required, but you're going to want $1 million just because that makes you look like you kind of have everything more together, and it's going to create more options for you when you actually try to book freight, because a lot of brokers will not work with you unless you have that $1 million coverage. The next most important policy is the motor truck cargo policy. This basically means if you're hauling XYZ freight, and the value of that freight is, let's say, $40,000, and something goes wrong with it, but it's not, the fault of, I guess it could be the fault of an accident, essentially, but you're covering the freight as well. So with auto liability, think of like you're covering the truck and, physical damage. You could also be covering the trailer. Then with cargo liability, you're covering the stuff inside of the trailer. If you're just starting off, you're going to want to start off with $100,000. A lot of the customers we work with are at $250,000 because a lot of those are food products. Even if the cargo is typically like $15,000, some people will just require that you have $250,000 worth of coverage. If you get a new customer, they might have their own insurance requirements. That's why we have it, not because you haul anything worth $250,000. But you can also get cargo up to $1 million, and this is typically where you're hauling stuff like pharmaceutical products or basically something you can have that's extremely valuable and small enough to fit in a truck worth $1 million. But just starting off, you really need to get that $100,000 as a minimum to book freight. Now, if you're booking freight with a broker, they're going to want to see that $100,000 worth of cargo insurance. Next would be workers' compensation. If you are the only driver and you own the company, you do not need to get workers' compensation because you have equity in the company that you are working for. But if you start hiring employees and they act totally as employees and you put someone in the truck, then you're going to have to get workers' compensation. This is just something you would ask your broker about, but we'll get into that. The next insurance we want to worry about is trailer interchange. So with trailer interchange insurance, it is insurance to say, hey, if I haul a trailer that is not mine for another company, I have trailer interchange insurance. And with this, you want a $60,000 limit. So if you're just starting off and you're doing power-only work, you're going to really need trailer interchange insurance. Because if, let's say, I have 100 trailers and you're an owner operating moving from point A to point B for a delivery that we'll pay you for, I have to have some kind of coverage on that trailer because on my insurance policy, if my driver is not driving the trailer, then it's uninsured. So if I have a hired person delivering the trailer, they need to have trailer interchange insurance in order to actually execute the work. The last coverage we have here is reefer breakdown insurance. And with this, you're going to want a policy between $80,000 to $100,000 to start if you're doing reefer work. If you're not doing reefer work, you do not need this policy. But what reefer breakdown insurance is essentially if the engine has a mechanical failure in your reefer unit and that somehow results in losing X amount of product. So let's say you're hauling $90,000 worth of asparagus. It's supposed to be kept at 32 to 34 degrees, and your unit breaks and you're 300 miles away and you have no way of keeping the temperature right and the product all spoils. Because the engine breaks, you can get a claim for that and actually be covered rather than being sued for $90,000 worth of asparagus. What this does not cover is driver negligence. I haven't found a policy that covers driver negligence. I'm sure it exists because there's a policy for everything. But if reefer breakdown in the common way that it is done, if your driver or you, let's say you set the temperature at 50 degrees by accident, you would not be covered and you would be on the hook for the entire $90,000 worth of asparagus. Those are all of the primary coverages that you will need. And to start off, I can make another video about the additional coverages you might need later on, like crime insurance, errors and omissions. There's a billion different policies out there that different customers will require, and that is why it is important to have a good broker or have good insurance relationships in order to get these policies when you need them when you're picking up these new clients. How can we get our insurance? So you're going to want to get your trucking insurance through a broker, and sort of what this means is the insurance broker here basically goes to different insurance carriers to get all of the different policies and negotiate on your behalf to prove that you are the safest company in the world, and they will try to get you the best rate possible while they themselves make an undisclosed profit. It's important to have a good insurance broker that you trust, but at the same time, if you're just starting out, your deal is not going to be amazing, and it's really hard to tell who you could trust because everyone's super friendly and nice. And they are all great people, but they all come off as great people, and that's their job is sales and everything. If you can know someone, that would be great. If you can form a relationship or get a recommendation, that is also great. But if you're looking for insurance, if you're just starting off, more likely than not, each of these brokers are probably going to reach out to the same insurance carrier. Especially if you're new, it'll be carriers like Progressive or Prime, and with the cargo policy, it might be like Lloyd's of London or something along those lines. And you're just going to want to talk to someone that you like. As you can see here, if you don't know somebody, you can kind of just Google trucking, brokerage, insurance companies, and we're literally just on truckersinsurance.com, and there's a bunch of companies here. These are all the brokers. You don't have 10 plus units, but it's just one of those things where you kind of just Google it, find a bunch of trucking brokers if you don't know any, and go off field, try to make sure that you want someone who's probably local in your area that you could see in person. Now, if you have one truck, they might not want to see you in person because you're not really valuable enough to them. But whatever you can do to form a better relationship with this party would be for the best. There's, a million companies out there, and chances are, if you're just starting, it's not crazy important because at the end of the day, they're all going to be reaching out to the same carrier. If I'm like a broker, it'd be like if I'm brokering to trucks and I just reach out to these same exact trucks that TQL reaches out to, or that any other brokerage reaches out to. These insurance brokers all reach out to the same carriers constantly. So that's trucking insurance, for companies that are just starting out. It's not extremely exciting, but extremely necessary and a good thing to know. Things get a little more interesting when it comes to the intricacies with claims and how to properly handle them and everything. But when it comes down to it, just understand what coverages you need, read contracts when you're working with different customers so you actually know what policies you need and maybe what you'll need in the future. When you're working with an insurance broker, try to find someone you work well with. Almost view it like they're an employee for your company. Like, this is someone you're going to be working with a lot, and you're going to want to make sure that they're wanting to help you, especially if you're trying to pick up a customer and you need that extra oomph to get the policy across so that you can actually work with them. And with regard to the price as well, I would say that if you want to negotiate a lower insurance price, there are some things you can do, like limiting what you're covering. So think of it from the insurance company's perspective. They want to minimize their liability when it comes to working with. What you can do to minimize the insurance company's liability is to increase your deductible or differentiate in terms of how far you're going to serve. Sometimes if you're doing over the road, that actually even seems better than doing like port work or something. And basically, the less complicated and less risky your business seems, the better it will be for the minimization of liability to minimize the cost of covering that liability. And that's about it. When your customers are asking you for certificates of insurance, they're going to ask for a PDF essentially of basically them listed as a holder, sometimes with stuff in the description changed, but your broker is to make all that stuff. So when let's say if you're trying to get a load and the broker you're working with for the load says, I need XYZ done on the insurance certificate, you basically just forward that over to your broker or whoever works for your broker, and they would create the certificate. So how quickly they can create the certificate is important. So that is another thing to ask when you're working with the broker is how quickly, what is the process that you guys use to create certificates of insurance, and how quickly and how are they made? Like, how can I make them essentially? There are some services where you can make the certificate on your own, but most of the time you're going to just have to reach out to the broker and they're going to make it for you. That's that on insurance. All very important stuff to know. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. I'll put my email again in the description. So if you have anything more specific you'd want to know or want me to tell you about or any examples, let me email you. I'll do it all for free. Just let me know. And thanks for listening. Like and subscribe.